You might have heard of that Silver Surfer wannabe, overly carbonated drinking Pepsi can conjuring Pepsi man, whose superpower is limitless, high fructose corn syrup. And sure, it had a game that could be played on the original PlayStation, but what about that cool, hip, kick-flipping Coca-Cola kid, who had a game featured on the mega playable and long-loved Game Gear system by Sega? Where's the love? It's high time we stick it to the big corporations like Pepsi and give it up for those small little guys like Coca-Cola. Also, this was a game sharing a title with the 1985 movie known as The Coca-Cola Kid. We all know this tale. A story of a Coca-Cola marketing executive sent to fight off a small local Australian business trying to make their own soda. Now, how dare some small company try to compete with Coca-Cola anywhere in the world and try to steal its business? That's absolutely unacceptable. Besides this, it's really just a heartwarming story of love, revenge, and sugar. Okay, all right. I know, I'm getting way off track. Let's get back on it. So let's get to it. Let's talk about Coca, aka the Coca-Cola Kid, within the video game developed by Aspect and published by Sega, which if you can't tell by the damn thumbnail is quite a fucking weird game. Don't worry, we'll get to that though, because I gotta play and beat the game first. As I'm writing this, I haven't even played it yet. So one moment, please. I mean, as if I'm not playing it in the background of this video anyways, but that's in the future. Okay, whatever. Okay, I'm back. I played through it a little bit, lost my shit about a couple of levels in, and I gave up, so what? Anyways, I got the gist of it, and I know the story. By the way, this was a game only released in Japan and was later translated to English. Just thought I'd mention that. Okay, alright. So in the game, you play as Coca, the primary protagonist, the Coca-Cola Kid, if you will. Your mission is to get your school teacher back from a kidnapper who was incognito. Anyways, yoinks her ass up, and as Coca, you hear this happening, wait a little while, and then decide to go out to then fight all sorts of irresponsible adults and hope to find out who really took your school teacher, which doesn't make sense on why you'd want to save your school teacher that badly enough to shotgun a couple of Coca-Colas and fight a couple of lunatics who have spears, hacksaw type things, and even whips. Well, I guess it might kind of make sense in Coca's case. I don't think he was chasing that sugar rush, I'll tell you that much. Anyways, yes, the last boss within this game is a half-naked woman flying around wielding a whip, because why not? It's Coca-Cola after all, and you gotta be ready for whatever. I mean, this game is Coke-induced insanity after all, but it didn't really play too bad. Much less generic than I thought too. It's kind of like Sonic meets Mega Man vibes, you know, being the way that it's played, that is. But for a Coca-Cola game that came out in 1994, there's really not too much to expect. Sure, it's like one big advertisement, but it had depth, you know? A story of an unsung hero, ready to do whatever it takes to get back his teacher. A story that we could all relate to, because what wouldn't you do to get your teacher back? Okay, alright, anyways, back to the game. At the end of the day, it's just your average platformer. You go through locations like Central Park, I'm assuming that's the one in New York, some sort of ruins area, and even a nightclub type location, where, might I add, is the place that you meet the whipping boss at the end. You can pick up health, coins, ride on skateboards, and even drink Coke-filled power-ups along the way that turn you invincible. Sort of how we all feel after drinking a nice, cool, refreshing Pepsi Cola, isn't it? Sure is. Now anyways, each location holds a few different levels, and on the last level of each location, you're met with a boss, not really explaining their place in the storyline, and certainly not explaining how Miss Sakurako, the teacher, ends up appearing right after you beat the half-naked woman with the whip. And that just begs the question, what really did happen in between all of this? How did she just get passed around to all these different people? Which, sadly, they never really answer this, and we don't really know. I'd like to think that it was like some sort of relay race situation, you know, where they pass the baton off, but instead they're passing off this teacher. So every time you got to fight the boss, they just pass it on to another boss. And you know what? It just keeps going. So how she was kidnapped by this dweeb to then end up with this lady is wildly unknown. All I know is that there's 3 bosses in between the first and the last one for a total of 5 bosses, not explaining anything about the teacher really or where to find her, besides the first boss, the kidnapper himself, who had this to say. After that, it's pretty much all a blur on how you're led to all these different locations. No one really tells you a damn thing. So to say, honestly, there was no real backstory to this game. Teacher gets kidnapped and you go to save her. That's all you get. Oh, and don't forget to drink your Coke cans along the way. Then maybe you too could save your teacher and get suffocated by her chest. Yes, You beat the game, and she's just so happy to see her number one student. Yes, that student being Cokie, that she hugs him until he passes out, not being able to breathe against her chest and all. So you know what? I hope it was worth it, Cokie. Should be me. Sorry, excuse me. But now that I think about it, I didn't see any of those other ungrateful students around trying to save her. Then again, we don't really see anyone else at all in the beginning, assuming they were in a classroom to start. So really, who truly knows the story behind that? Like, where was everyone else? How did this lunatic get into the classroom in the first place to steal this teacher? Was it really a classroom? Where was Cokie that he could hear her get kidnapped, but couldn't stop it in the first place? How the heck is he so strong anyways? And how the heck does he get even stronger by drinking a refreshing, sugary beverage such as Coca-Cola? There's so many more unanswered questions as well, but I gotta stop and take it for what it is, which is just a game about Coca-Cola and its mystical powers. Hold up, scratch that, I got more questions. Why was this game made and who was it really intended for? I don't really know. I mean, Pepsi didn't even have a game until 1999, so what did Coke even have to prove? I feel like that's half the reason why Coca-Cola would do anything, because of Pepsi. I guess that's just the 90s for you. Just a wild time. No one was gonna stop Coca-Cola from doing their thing. And let me tell you, do their thing they did. Anyways, we got a test to know if this game really worked, you know? I'm assuming the true point behind it is, does it really make me want to go out and buy a can of cool, crisp Coca-Cola? I gotta say, only if there's a teacher getting kidnapped not too far away. Then in which case, we roll out. All right. Now gather around tight. Let me just tell you something. This game doesn't tell you the truth, but I will. If you wanted to get the gist of how Coca-Cola makes you feel, go out and watch one of those early 2000s commercials about smoking some of that mean green. It'll have you deflated, that's for damn sure. One sip might just have you kidnapping teachers and punching kids riding skateboards. That's the real truth behind participating in the drinking of Coca-Cola. Don't fucking do it. But if you're gonna do it, just be sure to drink responsibly. I don't want to see on the news that some tweaker's hurling Coca-Cola cans at some skateboarding kid. Please don't do that. Instead, you should probably get back to working, maybe with the Coca-Cola by your side, like me. Bye-bye.